Hi, everybody. Welcome to our virtual cook-along with HEB and Sparrow Living. First, I wanted to welcome you guys into my home. I think it's been a really interesting year, and we haven't really been able to connect with a lot of people. But what the cool thing about technology is that we're still getting to do a virtual cook-along, and you guys are actually in my home, which I think is pretty cool. So let me go ahead and introduce myself first. My name is Puja. I'm one of your HEB registered dietitians, and today we're here with my good friends from Sparrow Living. So hopefully you guys are able to join, through one of your Facebook channels, and you're able to get all of these fun ingredients so that we can do our cook-along together today. So, like I said, my name is Puja. I'm one of your HEB registered dietitians. And what that means actually is I'm a dietitian who works at a grocery store, which is really different. So a lot of times you find dietitians who work in a clinic or maybe a hospital, which is true for a lot of dietitians. But in a grocery store, it's actually a completely different experience. So I used to work at a hospital, and the thing is that when you're seeing people in the hospital, I was noticing that a lot of people I was visiting with were coming in for a lot of conditions that were very, very preventable. So that's when I decided to take my career over to the grocery store, where I can actually visit with people just like you and walk through the aisles and figure out what are some different food choices we can make in order for you to live a healthier and better life. So let's go ahead and get started today. I'm going to talk a little bit as you're still maybe gathering some of your ingredients today. First thing I wanted to talk to you about is something called My Plate. So if you think back maybe 10 years ago, about 20 years ago, there used to be this food pyramid. And that's what we were using to kind of figure out how to make some food decisions throughout the day, or how to put some of our foods on a plate, what are the proper portion sizes, all of that sort of thing. But that doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. I know it didn't really make sense to me either. So instead, we have this, which is called My Plate. And so throughout the day, we want to think about portioning out our meals and our portion sizes of these different foods in order to look something like this plate. So I'll explain here. You want half of your plate to be fruits and vegetables. You want another portion to be grains. So relatively, that portion size should be about the size of your fist. That would be approximately the size of the grains you want to have on your plate. And then you want some protein. So the amount of protein you want to have on your plate is about the size of your palm, or about the deck of the cards, about that size. And then you also want to include some dairy. So again, not every meal needs to look exactly like this, but if you were to think at the end of the day, what do all your foods look like? You want to think about, did you get a good variety between all of these different nutrients on your plate at the end of the day? The cool thing about our recipes today is that we're actually including all of these food groups on here. So first, we're going to have some cranberry sauce, and so that's going to include our fruits. We're also getting some fruits and some of the salad options that we're putting together. Our vegetables are going to be taken care of in the salad that we're making, as well as this really nice tomato topping that we're putting on our protein. We're going to get grains from our mashed potatoes, and then we're also going to get our protein from some of our dairy, and then again, protein of your choice. And then dairy is, of course, going to get included with our Greek yogurt. So lots of fun today. I'm going to go ahead and put my plate back. So first thing we're going to put together is going to be our salad. So right here you see that I've got this lovely, lovely mix of some spinach, some purples, lots of different greens, and lots of different nutrients, textures, all kinds of things happening in here. I love getting a really good different kind of spring mix, because again, you're going to get lots of different nutrients. All these different colors that you see in this bowl right here also indicate lots of different nutrients that you're going to get. The other great thing about including greens that are darker, leafier, you're also going to get more fiber. And so let me talk about fiber for a second. Fiber is something that is really, really good for us. It's something that helps us stay fuller for a lot longer. It also helps keeps our bowel movements nice and regular. And then fiber is also a really great nutrient that helps to take care of our heart too. So lots of different places where you're going to get fiber. Ideally, we're going to get fiber from things like your vegetables, your fruits, your whole grains. So let's go ahead and start putting this salad together. Again, I've got my mix of greens right here. I love bringing salad to a lot of meals because, again, lots of times your vegetables are the easiest thing to put together on that plate because it really doesn't require a lot of preparation, especially salads. So again, we're going to start here. Next ingredient that we're going to put in here is going to be our chopped strawberries. And again, with the salad, You can put in whatever kinds of ingredients you want. You by no means have to stick exactly to this recipe. Salads are super flexible. Dressings are very flexible. A lot of times I put together my salad as just all these ingredients and vegetables that are close to going bad, and I'll just put it all together in a salad. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to take my strawberries, and I'm going to go ahead and just dump it into the salad. Here we go. Salad's also really fun because it's an opportunity to get a lot of different colors in here. So again, we've already got 3 different colors happening in this, which I think is fascinating. We're also adding in our purple onion. So again, lots of different nutrients coming through in here, lots of different colors. And then also think about all the different flavors that are happening in here too. A lot of times when we're thinking about meals, we want to think about how do we include different tastes, different textures, because again, that is so satisfying for our minds when we get all these different flavors happening in here. So you want to think diversity when you're thinking about your plate. So again, so far we've got the spring mix, we threw on our strawberries, we've got the purple onions. Next thing we're going to be adding on are going to be some apples. I love adding apples to a salad because again, the good crunchiness, but it also adds some good sweetness in here too. The apples that I've put on here, so they're sliced Kanzi apples. These apples, super tasty. They're juicy, they're tangy, but they're also sweet. Lots of different flavors happening in here. Cool thing about apples is that also you can either make them sweet, so like you could take this apple, turn it into a nice applesauce, or you can make it, top it on with your pancakes. You can just have it with a chocolate hummus, for example, or you can even have apples a little bit savory. So for example, like we're having in this salad right here, I also like slicing apples and putting it into a grilled cheese sandwich. So you get the sweetness, but you get that good crunchiness and your grilled cheese sandwich also. So again, apples, super versatile. I also want to let you know, so I cut this apple a couple hours ago, and it's actually not even brown, which is pretty cool because a lot of times apples get that browning as soon as you cut it. Not super appealing to the eye. I also learned about another apple today, an opal apple, which also just does not brown. I heard that you can cut it the night before and you can just let it sit out, and just naturally the way that apple is made, it's just not going to turn brown. So if that's something that maybe bothers you a little bit, great way to get that apple and not have it turn brown. So again, so far we've got the mixed greens, we've got the spring mix, we've got the spinach, apples, we got strawberries, we have onions, lots of fun things happening here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some nuts in here. So I like adding nuts. It's a great way to add a good crunchiness to this meal. But again, nuts are really nutritious for us. Nuts can be a really great source of some good healthy fats. So remember, when we're thinking about healthy fats, we're thinking about things like avocado, we're thinking fish, we've got some nuts here. Lots of great healthy fats in here. And the reason we want to have these healthy fats is because we've got our good cholesterol, we've got our bad cholesterol. Nuts, among other things like avocados, olive oil, and salmon, this is going to be something that really helps out that good cholesterol. So again, you can use whichever nut you want to have. The recipe that we talked about earlier today actually recommends using almonds, but I actually had some walnuts here in my home already, so that's why I'm using walnuts. But again, you can use any kind of nut that you want to add into here, whether it's pistachios or it's walnuts or it's almonds, anything that you've got. The cool thing about cooking is that you don't really have to follow any rules. If you want to add whatever you want to add into a meal, as you can see, I'm not really measuring anything either because you're just kind of going about your own taste preferences. And that's the cool thing about cooking is you don't have to follow any of those rules. So look at that. What a beautiful salad. Next thing we're going to add into here is going to be some cheese. So again, this is going to have a really good flavor. It's also going to have some of that sodium in here to bring out a lot of that flavor. And then again, we're going to get a little bit of protein in here too. I really like a blue cheese. I think these apples pair well with a very strong type of cheese. But again, that's just my taste preference. If your taste preferences say something else, then by all means, definitely listen to those taste preferences. So far we've got all of this happening in our salad here. We've got fruits, we've got vegetables, we've got healthy fats, we have a little bit of protein. Next thing to do on here is to finish it off with the dressing. So the dressing that we're making today is going to include some pomegranate juice, and it's going to include some olive oil. So I'm going to mix these together. There we go. So remember, things like pomegranate juice, that's going to have some really good antioxidants, which are really great nutrients. They also take care of our bodies really, really well. Go ahead and stir that together. And then olive oil, so remember, that's going to be your source of healthy fats in this recipe as well. So we've got that so far. If you're measuring, if you're somebody who likes to measure, I used a 1/4 cup of the pomegranate juice and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. If you don't have utensils to measure, 2 tablespoons is about the size of your thumb. So if you're eyeballing like I am, it's about that much. Next thing we're going to be adding into here is some mustard. It's also really fun to make your own dressings because then you can, again, make it taste like however you want it to taste. You're not limited to the selection at your store. But what I think is really cool about making your own dressing is that you can also customize the nutrients that you find in there. A lot of times when you get some pre-made dressings, you might risk getting a little bit too much sodium in it. But cool thing about this is that I can control exactly how much salt I want to put in this. And me personally, I'm not going to put too much because I feel like the blue cheese is already pretty salty, so I don't think I need to add anything else. Only thing I'm going to add into here now is I'm going to grind some pepper. So here we go, just grinding some pepper in here. Sounds good, sounds like enough grinds. Then we're going to just stir it up again. Perfect. All right, and then all we do from here, either you can take your own dressing, maybe bottle it up and use it later, or I'm just gonna go ahead and just pour it into here so that my apples and the strawberries and everything can just soak up these really, really delicious flavors. So there you have it. We've already finished one of our dishes today. So we've got our salad. Just a reminder, we used a spring mix that had some spinach greens in there. We used some red onion, some apple, some strawberries. We put nuts in there. We put some cheese in there. And then we topped it with a good homemade dressing. Again, really easy way. And we're thinking about our plate. So we've already got half of that plate done. We've got your fruits, we got your vegetables, all of that's already completed. So again, half of our plate already done. And again, minimal prep that it really took to put this together. So I'm going to put this right there. Next thing that we're moving on to is going to be our cranberry sauce. So the ingredients I use to put this together are, of course, cranberries. And then I also put in about a cup of pomegranate juice. I also put in some honey drop mandarins, which if you haven't tried those, super, super tasty, really easy to peel. They also don't have any seeds in there too, which I love because I don't want to have to figure out how to pull seeds out of my mandarins. So I put that in here. I cooked it on the stove already for a little bit, about 15 minutes. I let it boil and then I let it cool down. So here's what we've got so far with our cranberry sauce. The other thing I put in here is this 0-calorie monk fruit extract. So the original recipe suggested using about a cup of sugar. I didn't want to use that much sugar, so instead I found this monk fruit extract at H-E-B and I used 1 cup of this. The cool thing about this, so again, when you have a lot of different types of sweeteners, you might have to figure out a little bit of a different ratio. So if you're using things like a Splenda or maybe a Sweet and Low, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 type of ratio when you're swapping it out with sugar. This type of product, though, a monk fruit extract, actually works as a 1-to-1. So if you're thinking about using this in something like a cranberry sauce, or if you're making a lemonade or a sweet tea, or let's say you're baking, it's really, really easy because you're just doing a 1-to-1 ratio. So there's really no math involved, which is super helpful for me because I'm not too great at fractions. But again, the cool thing about this, though, is that it's a 0-calorie sweetener, so you don't have to worry about all this extra calorie density coming to this meal. You don't have to worry about what's my blood sugar going to do if I have something super sweet. Doesn't really have that type of effect. So I would really recommend this. I also really like this one because I feel personally like some of the other ones have this kind of aftertaste to it, whereas I feel like this one doesn't really have that funky aftertaste to it. So I could even add this to my coffee, not going to have that aftertaste. So here we've got again, the cranberry sauce with the pomegranate juice and those great antioxidants. The cranberries, again, also antioxidants in those as well. And then we had our honey drop mandarins, which is going to provide a whole lot of vitamin C to keep us nice and healthy. What we're going to dress it up with, though, is some mint. So mint is super easy to just add into a lot of meals. It adds a really fun green garnish to it, which I think is beautiful. And the cool thing about mint is that, again, super low maintenance. We can just sprinkle it onto here, mix it into our cranberry sauce. Mint is also really great. Let's say maybe if you're into gardening or you know someone who's into gardening, mint is actually super, super easy to grow. Literally all you do is just put it in the pot and it just kind of goes wild. So really great thing. Also adds a lot of good flavors to some of your foods too. Or if you're thinking about dressing up a beverage or just trying to make your water taste a little bit better. If maybe you're a person that's like, I don't really love water, I need to figure out how to drink more water, adding things like mint, even adding in some strawberries or adding in any other type of flavor you like to your water could be a really, really great way to help you just get more of that water into your body. As a dietitian, sometimes we get questions about how much water should I be drinking? So a quick answer to that, and again, this is just very generally speaking, is to take your body weight, divide that in half, and that is approximately how many ounces of water you should be drinking. So for example, if somebody weighs 200 pounds, you cut that in half, 100. That is approximately how many ounces of water that person should be drinking. But again, everybody's needs are very different. If you're on certain medications or if you have certain health conditions, your water intake might be a little bit different. But again, generally speaking, that's approximately how much you could have. So again, coming back to our cranberry sauce, this is actually now completed. So however you like to have your cranberry sauce, whether you like to have it plain, you like to put it on top of something, super easy way to get that done. And again, we're going to cut the sugar down tremendously when you swap out regular sugar for something like a monk fruit extract. So we're going to go ahead and put this over here too. The next thing we're going to get together is going to be our tomato topping. So this is something that would go onto your entree. So for example, you could take this tomato topping, and I'll show you how we're going to put it together. But you would take this topping and we're going to put it in the oven, and perhaps you could put this on top of your protein. So whether you wanted to do something like a rotisserie chicken, this could be a really easy topping to put on top of that, and it's just super easy to put together. It's also any other kind of topping. Let's say you wanted to add it onto your salads, or if you wanted to throw it into a pasta, just a really, really versatile type of topping. So we're going to take our cherry tomatoes, super easy. My friend Lacey actually told me about this recipe. We're just going to cut these tomatoes in half. All right. I also like to get the different colored cherry tomatoes because, again, I am all about adding different colors to my meal. I think it just looks, I just like to have a rainbow on my plate, and honestly, I think it just looks a lot more fun when we have all these different colors here. So we're just going to slice up these tomatoes. And if you don't like cherry tomatoes, and if you're more of like a Roma tomato or an heirloom tomato kind of person, again, you choose what works best for you and your taste preferences. By no means do you have to follow anything strictly. If you visit with one of our dietitians, or maybe one that is local in your area, you will most likely find that your dietitians are very, very friendly and just really easygoing. A lot of times people think that we're kind of like the food police and we're here to take all these foods away from you and really make sure that you're following a strict diet. But the thing is that your dietitians, we actually don't like diets. We like to follow mentalities of things like all foods fit. We like to encourage people to eat what they like and to really make sure that they're liking what they're eating. So again, things like all foods fit, we really like to make sure that the decisions you're making, you're okay with them. So again, visit with your dietitian, get some good advice, figure out what works for your lifestyle, what type of goals you have, and really what's going to work out best. A lot of times when people seek out diets, those things are very, very short-lived. Oftentimes we see that diets work for about 6, maybe 8 weeks or so, and then we're starting all over again. So it's really best to figure out what are some good lifestyle changes you can make, because lifestyle changes are going to last for a long, long time versus things like diets, very short-lived, It's not going to be great. We're constantly yo-yoing. And not only is that frustrating just mentally, but it's also just, it's not good for our bodies to constantly go through this up and down, whether it's weight or it's not, whatever it is. Our bodies really don't do well when we do that type of diet cycling. So really best to just take it slow, figure out what works for you, and then go from there. And I know, it's already the end of December somehow. In my mind, I feel like it's still March, but somehow it's December. And in just a few weeks, we're going to start making some New Year's resolutions, or maybe you're already thinking of things like that. If you're a resolution kind of person, again, dietitians, we love setting goals and we like to do that sort of thing, but really think through what kind of resolutions you want to set for next year. I would encourage you, think about not setting something that is super black and white and doing something that is a little bit more flexible. So thinking, maybe instead of doing a resolution like, I'm going to cut out carbs for 6 months, or I'm going to eat this every single day, or I will give up bread, or I will give up pasta. Instead of thinking about it so black and white, just think about what are some more flexible goals that you can set that'll get you ultimately to what that goal is. So thinking about a more flexible goal would be, I will try to eat 1 vegetable every day, or I will try to work on maybe following better portion sizes, or I will try to follow a My Plate type model. Things like that are actually going to keep you a lot more accountable. It's not as strict and black and white, and you don't feel limited, because nobody wants to feel limited with their food choices. Definitely not your dietitians either. All right, so we're almost done cutting all of these fun tomatoes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to dress it up with this olive oil and garlic mixture that I put together. So again, just a reminder, your olive oil is going to be really, really high in those healthy fats. And then we also put in some minced garlic here. You could do this a couple different ways. Again, super flexible with your cooking. You could either get some whole garlic cloves and you can peel them and mince them up on your own. That is a great option. Me personally, I didn't want to do that today. So I actually got the pre-minced, it comes in a little jar. I got that and I just put a couple tablespoons in here. If you don't have either of those, that is also fine too. You could even just use some garlic powder. And again, we're going to get the same flavor. We want this to be convenient for you. I'm also going to add a little bit of pepper into this. Perfect. So we're just going to mix this up. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our lovely tray of tomatoes. There we go. We're going to take this olive oil mixture that has the garlic. We're just going to gently just drizzle it over here, trying to cover the majority of all the tomatoes that we see here. They all have this really good flavor. And then again, like I was saying, you can add this onto any type of protein. My friend Lacey suggested throwing this onto a rotisserie chicken, which is also a really good way. It doesn't even just have to be a holiday meal. This is something that you could just cook all year round. And again, if it helps you eat a little bit better, if it helps you eat more often at home, that is our ultimate goal. We just want people to eat better, usually eat at home a little bit more, get more vegetables in our body, get some good lean proteins. All right, so almost done drizzling our tomatoes. Perfect. I hope your kitchen smells as good as my kitchen, because I just love the way garlic smells. All right, and the next thing we're going to add onto here is some Parmesan cheese. Again, I picked this one because my friend Lacey recommended I do this one. Otherwise, you could add in any other kind of cheese that you want to do if you're more of a mozzarella person, or if you're more of a sharp cheddar. Again, whatever floats your boat, whatever kind of cheese you want to add onto this. All right, and then we're going to take this, we're going to put it into the oven at 450, and we're just going to let it cook for a little bit. All right, perfect. So we've got that done. Next thing we're going to put together are mashed potatoes. So I'm going to grab my potatoes from over here. I also already pre-boiled my mashed potatoes. just to make sure that we were good on time. It's interesting with potatoes, just personally speaking. When I was a kid, I actually did not like potatoes at all. But the cool thing actually is that our taste buds change every 7 to 8 years or so. So something that you may not have liked previously, I really recommend that you try it again because it could be something that you start enjoying now. So something like potatoes, I did not like them as a kid. Tomatoes, picked them out of everything as a kid. And now, I mean, I just put a whole bunch of tomatoes in there. I love tomatoes now. I would also recommend if you don't like something one way, try it out another way too. So for example, if you don't like biting into apples and you just think like, oh, I just don't like apples, maybe try taking your apple and doing something different with it. So for example, slicing it up, adding it to a salad, or maybe slicing it up, adding it to a grilled cheese sandwich, maybe slicing it up and having it with some peanut butter. So try it so many different ways because it's likely that you probably don't like it one way and you might like it another way. A lot of times, if people don't like vegetables, we really recommend maybe try roasting them. Roasting them brings about a really nice, like crispy texture to it, brings about some good flavors in it. So that's a really good way to try something, just in case if you don't like it one way. So we're going to take our potatoes. As you can see, I did not peel them. I think it's fun to keep some of that peel on there because it adds a little bit of extra texture to it. Also adds a little bit of extra fiber to this mashed potato dish too. So I think it's fun to keep them on. If you're not a peel person, by all means, peel your potatoes and have your potatoes the way you like. A question we get a lot actually as dietitians is, can I eat potatoes? Or are they bad for me? Or do they have too many carbs? And to that I say, if you like potatoes, I want you to eat potatoes. I think the bigger thing to focus on is what portion size are you having of the potatoes? Maybe how often are you having the potatoes? Are you having other things at this meal? So really we're trying to incorporate a lot of balance. And then also remember, potatoes also have some good nutrients in them too. They have carbohydrates, which is really good because our bodies actually need carbohydrates for energy. So you want to make sure that we're getting a really good source of energy. Also, a lot of times, I was actually pretty surprised about this too. I was not aware for a while that potatoes actually have vitamin C. I thought they were just kind of limited to our citrus foods, but potatoes actually do have some vitamin C as well, which is pretty cool. All right, so we've got our potatoes mashing in here. We're going to make this a little bit differently today, actually. So we're thinking along the lines of maybe swapping out, like we did with our sugar and the monk fruit. We're going to swap out some more traditional ingredients of your mashed potatoes with some other ingredients today. So we're going to put in something called Nutopia. This is an ultra-filtered milk. What that means is it's actually got less carbohydrates and it's got more protein compared to your traditional milk. So if we're looking back here at our label, so first thing you always want to look at if you're looking at labels on your products is you always want to look at that first line, which is going to say serving size. So on here, serving size is 1 cup. You might use a cup in here, you might not, but it's just suggesting that that's the serving size for this product. The next thing we want to look into are the total carbohydrates. So on here we see total carbohydrates, you got 6 grams. So again, in your more traditional types of milk, that total carbohydrate is going to sound more like 12 grams. And then when we look here at our protein, in this type of milk, you get 13 grams of protein versus your more traditional milk, you're going to get about 8 grams of protein. So very different kind of milk. I would recommend using it in things like your mashed potatoes. You could even use it in your cereal, however else you like to have your milk, if you put milk in your coffee. I think this is a great one. It is also lactose free, so in case you had any lactose issues, you just don't tolerate lactose too well, this is something that would work out for you. So again, not measuring, just kind of eyeballing, but this is the amount of Nutopia I'm going to put in here. And we're just going to mix it up again. And because it has that higher protein, it's also going to make the mashed potatoes quite a bit creamier. You can probably see that it's coming together nice and creamily already. There we go. The next thing we're going to add in here, so again, instead of your traditional ingredients of things like maybe a sour cream or a buttermilk, we're going to use something here that is a Greek yogurt. So this is a non-fat plain Greek yogurt. You want to be careful if you're swapping it out, because even something like a vanilla could have a very similar type of label. Just be sure that you're getting one that says plain, so we're not adding too much sweetness into your potatoes. But again, this is pretty cool, and you might have heard a lot lately about Greek yogurt. So this is something, again, just like our Utopia here, Greek yogurt compared to your traditional yogurt is going to have less carbohydrates. It's also going to have more protein. And in case you're wondering, like, why is she talking about so much protein? Protein is a really, really great nutrient that actually keeps us fuller for a lot longer. So that's why having enough protein in our diet is critical. Something like a protein is going to stay in our body. It digests a lot slower, probably takes about 3 to 4 hours for your proteins to get through your system. Whereas things like carbohydrates, they're very good for us. They're very nutritious, but they just pass through our system a little bit quicker. So that's why I would encourage you, if you feel like you're getting hungry very often, you're just hungry throughout the day, take a look and see how much protein you're getting at your meals and also how much fiber you're getting at your meals too. So we're just going to open up this individual container, and I'm going to grab my spoon and just kind of put some of that in here. So again, this is going to replace some of that sour cream that you might be using. And if you haven't had the plain Greek yogurt before and you're wondering, like, how is that going to taste? Your Greek yogurt is really not going to taste similar to something like a traditional type of yogurt. Greek yogurt actually tastes a little bit more like sour cream to me. Because of the way that it's processed, it's actually got a little bit more tartness to it. So that's why it works well as a sour cream swap. All right, so we have got this coming together. Just mixing it up again. Smells so good in here. And then the next thing we're going to add into this is our butter swap. So what we're going to use instead over here is going to be this H-E-B spreadable balance. So this is going to be similar to a buttery spread, but again, like we were talking about earlier with things like the nuts, the avocados, the olive oil, this is also going to be one of those sources of omega-3. So again, something that's really good for our hearts. And you can see right here, it's got some great labeling on here talking about the omega-3s that are in here. So we're going to just put just a little couple dollops in here, adding that good buttery flavor, also adding some fat to this meal too. And again, when we have all these different components into a meal, we get carbs, we have proteins, we have fats. Our bodies love having that kind of balance. It just makes us feel very nice and full. That also means we're getting all of the nutrients that our bodies need too. So that's why I really recommend getting all 3 of those into a meal. And actually, we've gotten all 3 of those here in our mashed potatoes. So again, remember, your potatoes count as your carbohydrates. Your buttery spread right here counts as our fats. And then our Greek yogurt actually counts as our protein. So we get lots of different nutrients coming through in here. And now it is time to season it up a little bit. So I'm going to add in some salt, some pepper, and then we're also going to throw in some garlic powder. And then I also like to put some nutmeg in my mashed potatoes too. All right. And I think having the skins in here, it also just adds some good color to it also, so it doesn't just look like plain white mashed potatoes. But again, if you like to have plain white mashed potatoes, have what you like to have. All right, and I'm going to throw in some garlic powder here. There we go. And then we're going to throw in just a little bit of salt, just to bring out some good flavors. And I know we're doing this virtually, but I can actually hear my tomatoes getting nice and roasted behind me. So I'm going to pull those out in just a second. All right, now I like to kind of crush this up a little bit. There we go. Add that in there. And when we make these types of swaps, and we swap out things like the butter, we're swapping out the sour cream for the Greek yogurt, we're really saving on hundreds and hundreds of calories there. And I'm not really one of those dietitians that likes to count calories all the time, not that kind of person. But if you feel like maybe we're doing a little bit extra during the holidays, or maybe there's just too many calories, maybe you want to save these calories and use them towards dessert or some pie, swapping out calories is not a bad thing to do during the holidays. We also don't want to put so much emphasis on what we do during the holidays, because if you think about the holidays, it's really just a certain chunk of the year. And our bigger idea is really, what are you doing throughout the year? What are you doing from January all the way through October? And what are those habits looking like versus, what happens just during the holidays? All right, and now those mashed potatoes are nice and done with the healthy fats. You get some proteins in there. So that is nice and done. We're gonna put this right over here. And now I'm gonna pull out my tomatoes and see what those are looking like. All right, looking good. So as you can see here, the tomatoes are nice and roasted. Some of them got a little bit crispy, which is gonna add some really good flavor to whatever we decide to put this on. You've got the olive oil in here. You've also got the garlic. So lots of different fun flavors happening in here. And then remember, we added our Parmesan cheese. So it's really something that's like kind of pulled it all together with some good fats in there too. So again, this is something that you could put onto a rotisserie chicken. You could get some lean beef and then put this on top of there. If you like fish, you could put it on top of that. If you're more of a plant-based protein kind of person, you could put this on top of any other kind of protein dish that you wanted to. I would personally add this. This sounds like something that I would add maybe to a pasta. So maybe taking some basil, maybe taking some other herbs. I've also got some thyme right here, which I was going to just sprinkle on top of here. Herbs are a really great way to season a lot of our foods, and seasoning with herbs kind of helps us cut down on some of the salt that we're using throughout some of our meals, which is also really helpful. Salt is something, sodium, same thing, something that contributes to things like high blood pressure. So if we can find ways to cut down on how much salt we're using, always really good for our blood pressure, good for our hearts too. So there you have it. We have all of our recipes done for today. So just a reminder, we put together our salad. We've got our cranberry sauce, our mashed potatoes. We've got our wonderful cherry tomato topping. So just a reminder, when we're thinking about our plate, we've really got all of the different food groups on top of our plate. So we've got our fruits, we've got our vegetables, we get grains, we have proteins, all kinds of fun, nutritious meals here. I hope you guys had a really good time cooking together with us. I hope you learned a lot. Hope you learned how easy healthy eating can be. It doesn't need to be a struggle. We don't have to figure out meal plans and get organic and get all of this type of stuff. It can just be, what are some good ingredients that you have at home? How can we put this together in a good, satisfying, tasty meal? And then again, how can we make it look like my plate? How can we get all of these different great nutrients on our plate in our bodies? Hope you guys had a really good time. I had a really good time cooking with you. My kitchen smells amazing now. Hope you guys have a really good holiday season and a happy new year.